You've had a normal day, you're in bed, lights off, and suddenly your heart starts racing. Your thoughts spiral. You feel completely overwhelmed. Out of nowhere. Why does this only happen at night? It's a question so many of us have whispered into the darkness, feeling isolated and confused by this nightly ambush of anxiety. You might even start to dread bedtime, associating it not with rest but with an impending battle against your own mind. This isn't just a fleeting worry, it's a recurring pattern that can significantly impact your quality of life, leaving you exhausted and on edge. At night, when the world outside grows quiet, your brain embarks on a crucial, often unseen journey. It shifts into what neuroscientists call emotional memory consolidation mode. This isn't a passive state, it's an active process where the experiences and emotions from your waking hours are sorted, processed, and stored. Think of it like your brain's dedicated night shift, meticulously cataloging the day's events, particularly those tagged with strong emotional significance. This process is vital for learning and adapting, but it also means that any unresolved issues, lingering guilt, persistent fears, or deep-seated regrets from your day, or even from your past, can bubble up to the surface of your consciousness with surprising intensity. During sleep, particularly during REM, rapid eye movement sleep, the brain works to integrate emotional experiences into our broader memory networks. The goal is to strip away the acute emotional charge, allowing us to learn from the experience without being perpetually overwhelmed by it. However, if these emotions are particularly strong, or if our daytime coping mechanisms are insufficient, this nighttime processing can feel less like gentle integration and more like a raw, unfiltered replay. The amygdala, your brain's emotion and threat detection center, remains highly active during sleep, especially REM sleep. It's diligently working, flagging experiences that need attention. Simultaneously, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought, executive function, and emotional regulation, tends to be less active during these sleep stages. This imbalance can lead to a situation where emotions are experienced more vividly and perhaps less logically than they would be during waking hours. Without the usual checks and balances of your fully awake, rational mind, anxieties can feel more potent and harder to dismiss. Consider the unresolved argument you had with a loved one, or the looming deadline at work that you pushed to the back of your mind. During the day, distractions abound: meetings, chores, social media, the general hustle and bustle of life. These can temporarily mask or suppress underlying anxieties, but at night, in the stillness and quiet, these suppressed feelings have nowhere to go but into your awareness as your brain attempts to process them. Understanding this process is the first step towards mitigating its anxiety-inducing effects. If your brain is using the night to process unresolved emotional baggage, then addressing these issues during your waking hours becomes paramount. As daylight fades and darkness envelops your surroundings, your body initiates a series of intricate biological processes designed to prepare you for rest. One of the most well-known of these is the production of melatonin, often dubbed the hormone of darkness. The pineal gland in your brain ramps up melatonin secretion as light levels decrease, signaling to your body that it's time to wind down and sleep. This is a natural and essential part of your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock that governs your sleep-wake cycle and many other physiological functions. However, while melatonin is rising to promote sleep, another crucial hormonal interplay is occurring, one that can significantly impact your susceptibility to anxiety at night. Research suggests that as darkness sets in, your body may also become more sensitive to the effects of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Cortisol typically follows a diurnal rhythm, peaking in the morning to help you wake up and gradually declining throughout the day to its lowest levels around midnight. But even at these lower nighttime levels, an increased sensitivity can mean that any cortisol present has a more potent impact. This heightened cortisol sensitivity in the evening and during the night means that even relatively small stressors or worries, things you might easily brush off during the day, can feel disproportionately large and overwhelming. Imagine your body's stress response system becoming more finely tuned, more reactive, in the darkness. This isn't necessarily about having abnormally high cortisol levels at night, though that can be a problem for some, but rather about your system being more easily triggered by the cortisol that is naturally present or released in response to even minor psychological stress. This increased sensitivity to stress hormones can create a perfect storm when combined with the emotional processing we discussed in the previous chapter. If your brain is already bringing up unresolved emotional issues and your body is simultaneously more reactive to stress signals, the result can be a significant amplification of anxious feelings. A minor concern about an upcoming presentation, for instance, might transform into a full-blown panic about potential failure when experienced through this lens of heightened nighttime cortisol sensitivity. During the hustle and bustle of our waking hours, our minds are constantly bombarded with external stimuli. We're juggling work tasks, engaging in conversations, scrolling through social media feeds, listening to music, running errands. The list is endless. These activities, while sometimes sources of stress themselves, also serve as powerful distractions, effectively keeping our deeper, perhaps more troubling thoughts at bay. Our attention is directed outwards, engaged with the demands and diversions of the external world, leaving little room for introspection or unchecked worry. However, when night falls, and you finally settle into bed, a profound shift occurs. The external world recedes. The phone is hopefully put away, the television is off, the house is quiet, and the endless stream of daytime distractions dwindles to a mere trickle, or ceases altogether. It's in this sudden, stark quietude that you find yourself truly alone with your thoughts. There's no immediate task to focus on, no conversation to engage in, no urgent notification demanding your attention. It's just you, the darkness, and the vast, often unruly landscape of your own mind. This solitude, while potentially peaceful for some, can become an echo chamber for anxiety for others. Without the usual buffer of external engagement, your inner critic often seizes the opportunity to take center stage. This is the voice that replays your mistakes, highlights your perceived inadequacies, and conjures up worst-case scenarios for the future. During the day, you might be able to shout it down or distract yourself from its pronouncements, but at night, in the stillness, its whispers can become deafening roars, filling the void left by the absence of other stimuli. This is when rumination, the cognitive process of repetitively and passively focusing on one's negative emotions and their causes and consequences, tends to hit hardest. Instead of actively problem-solving, your mind gets stuck in a loop, replaying worries, regrets, and fears without reaching any resolution. It's like a mental hamster wheel, spinning endlessly but going nowhere productive. The quietness of the night, which should ideally be conducive to rest, ironically provides the perfect breeding ground for these unproductive thought patterns to flourish and magnify. The psychological impact of being trapped with these negative thoughts in the dark can be immense. Feelings of isolation can intensify, as it seems like you're the only one awake wrestling with these demons. The lack of immediate feedback or alternative perspectives, which you might get from talking to a friend during the day, means that your anxious thoughts can go unchallenged, growing more distorted and convincing with each repetition. For many who experience nocturnal anxiety, a particularly cruel irony unfolds. The fear of not being able to sleep, or the anxiety about experiencing anxiety at night, itself becomes a primary driver of sleeplessness and further anxiety. This phenomenon is often referred to as sleep anxiety, and it can quickly spiral into a frustrating and exhausting vicious cycle. It begins perhaps with a few bad nights, but the worry about those nights repeating can take on a life of its own, sabotaging your ability to achieve the very rest you so desperately need. Here's how the cycle typically works. You go to bed, and perhaps because of one of the reasons we've already discussed, emotional processing, cortisol sensitivity, or rumination, you start to feel anxious. As you lie there, feeling your heart race or your mind churn, you begin to worry, "Oh no, it's happening again. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight." This thought alone is enough to trigger a physiological stress response. Your body releases adrenaline and cortisol, your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallower, all responses that are diametrically opposed to the calm, relaxed state required for sleep. The more you worry about not sleeping, and the more you focus on the perceived negative consequences of a sleepless night, like "I'll be useless tomorrow," or "this is terrible for my health," the more physiologically aroused you become. This heightened arousal makes it even harder to fall asleep. You might start clock watching, each passing minute on the display amplifying your frustration and despair. This behavior, while understandable, only serves to reinforce the anxiety, as the clock becomes a tangible symbol of your failure to sleep. Then, inevitably, if you do have a poor night's sleep due to this anxiety, you wake up feeling tired, irritable, and perhaps even more anxious about the day ahead and, crucially, about the upcoming night. the lack of restorative sleep directly impacts your brain's ability to regulate emotions. Studies show that sleep deprivation can lead to increased activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and decreased connectivity with the prefrontal cortex, the rational regulatory part of the brain. This means you're more likely to feel anxious and less equipped to manage that anxiety during the following day. And so, as the next evening approaches, the anticipatory anxiety about sleep begins to build. Our bodies are intrinsically designed to operate in sync with the natural rhythms of the environment, particularly the daily cycle of light and darkness. This internal biological clock, known as the circadian rhythm, governs a vast array of physiological processes including our sleep-wake cycle, hormone release like melatonin and cortisol, body temperature, and even metabolism. For millennia, human life was largely dictated by the rising and setting of the sun. However, modern life, with its technological advancements and societal pressures, has introduced a host of factors that can significantly disrupt these deeply ingrained natural rhythms, paving the way for issues like nighttime anxiety. One of the most pervasive disruptors is the blue light emitted from our electronic devices, smartphones, tablets, computers, and televisions. Our brains interpret this blue light, especially in the evening, as daylight. This exposure tricks the pineal gland into suppressing the production of melatonin, the very hormone that should be rising to prepare us for sleep. Consequently, when you're scrolling through social media or watching a series late into the night, you're actively telling your brain it's still daytime, delaying sleep onset and potentially compromising sleep quality, making you more vulnerable to anxiety. Late-night eating is another common culprit. Consuming heavy meals or sugary snacks close to bedtime can interfere with sleep in several ways. Your digestive system is forced to work overtime when it should be resting, which can lead to discomfort, indigestion, or acid reflux, making it difficult to fall asleep or stay asleep. Furthermore, large fluctuations in blood sugar levels caused by late-night eating can also disrupt sleep architecture and potentially trigger hormonal responses that contribute to feelings of unease or agitation during the night. Inconsistent sleep schedules are also a major modern-day challenge to our circadian clocks. Our bodies thrive on routine, going to bed and waking up at vastly different times on weekdays versus weekends. A phenomenon sometimes called social jet lag confuses your internal clock. It's like constantly flying between time zones without ever leaving your home. If this video helped you understand why you feel anxious at night, hit that like button. It really helps the channel and lets me know what kind of content resonates with you. If you want more videos like this, exploring the science behind our well-being and offering practical, evidence-based advice, make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out. Most importantly, remember, you're not alone in this struggle. Experiencing nocturnal anxiety doesn't mean you're broken or flawed. It simply means you're human, navigating the complexities of your mind and body. Understanding these scientific reasons, from emotional processing and cortisol sensitivity to the impact of modern life on our circadian rhythms, is the crucial first step. The next equally important step is implementing strategies tailored to your situation, being patient and compassionate with yourself throughout this journey, and recognizing that you absolutely have the power to change your nighttime experience for the better. It's about consciously creating a sanctuary for sleep, not just in your physical environment but also within your mind. Remember that small, consistent changes can lead to profound and lasting improvements in your sleep quality and your overall sense of well-being. We've covered a lot of ground today, delving into the intricate reasons why anxiety can feel so much more intense when the lights go out. My sincere hope is that this information empowers you, providing you with both clarity and actionable insights to take control of your nocturnal anxiety. Remember to be kind to yourself as you explore these strategies. Progress often isn't linear. Peaceful, restorative nights are possible, and you truly deserve them. Thank you so much for watching, for investing this time in yourself. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll continue to explore ways to live a healthier, happier life.